when I go to the field, once I've done my engineering work, I've built the cultivator, I've set everything to specs according to where it needs to be from all the measurements, okay? But when you go out in the field, all of a sudden those measurements aren't the same because the contour of the field, the consistency of the soil, and the compaction in areas, then you have to make it match the field. You have to seed it in, so to speak. I'm going to pull in a field, and it's best to find a spot in the field there's very few weeds and grass. You just drive out there. You get on the rows and drive until you get to a spot that you don't have a lot of weeds and grass. You put the cultivator down, okay, to where the row is exactly here, all of them, all the way across, and then you put it in gear and go very, very, very slow, because you got to put your row guide up front on the row, and if you see that your cultivator is too far to the left, you got to move your row guide to the right. You first want to make it so when you are going forward and your row guide's nailed on the row that the cultivator is running true in sync with your row guide. That's the first thing you got to do. Okay, so you don't have to go very fast, because then you can raise up and back up because you weren't throwing any dirt. You're going real slow. Set the cultivator back down, and now you want to set it about a 3 mile an hour speed. You're going to guess on where you're going to set these fenders. I'm going to set these fenders so they're just covering about the top. They're just protecting the top third of the plant, let's say. That's a good place to start, or maybe half the plant. Okay, they're halfway up on the plant, the bottom edge of them, the bottom edge down here. And then you put it in a 3 mile an hour gear, and you're going about 10 feet, whatever it takes for you to get nailed on the row. Hold it there for a couple feet, and keep your row guide nailed on the row as you push it on the clutch and stop it. Okay, you don't raise the cultivator up. You take it out of gear, you get off the tractor, and you come back and you start doing your due diligence. You want to see what's going on. You look at row number 1. This is row number 1. I dig down right here on each side, and I want to make sure my spark plugs are going to be firing. They've got to be digging into just enough, heavy enough soil that they're thrusting the soil to the row. They've got to spark. They've got to slam the dirt in there. And so usually that tip back there will be in the soil 1/2 to 1 inch deep. If you were to measure, if you were to pull that away, it'd be down about 1 inch in the soil. Okay? And some of them you have to go deeper. The ones running behind a wheel track that's compacted, you won't run them as deep because you've got this much soil compressed into that much soil. So that's how much soil you can move, see? Because it's compressed. It changes the consistency of it. So you want to throw the same amount of weight, but when it's compressed, it doesn't take as much volume to equal the weight. Okay? And when you get them all set the same, both sides of the row, and they're all firing, then you're going to have to go another 20 feet, 30 feet to see if what your adjustments were did the trick. Now what you're going to find is some fenders will be protecting too much. Some fenders won't be protecting enough. And so what you'll do, you'll adjust your fenders accordingly to get the right response out of your dirt flow. If you got a fender covering up, you got to figure out if it's whether the right fender on that side of the row or the left fender on that side of the row needs to be put up or down to get it to work right. You want to get it set so that you start out 3 mile an hour, then you push it up to 3.5 mile an hour. You hold it at 3.5 mile an hour as you're going through the field. Then you stop, keep it right on the row. You take it out of gear, you get off, you walk around behind it, and you look around at your rows back there, and I get down on my hands and knees, and I've got the row here. I'm going to take that row and I'm going to inspect how much dirt and how consistent that dirt is flowing up against that row. I want about that much dirt up against that row. So you're going to cover up your cotyledons on soybeans, okay? And then I'm going to check on this side of the row, bend it this way, and I'm going to check for several feet to make sure it's consistently slamming dirt up against that row. I want it to slam that dirt in there so hard it stitches the dirt together. And that's why the consistency of your soil, the size of your bullets and your shots, so to speak, is important so you can stitch that dirt together. Now, in the course of the evening, that soybean, and the next day that soybean is going to grow, and it's going to move with the wind. And that dirt, because of gravity, is going to want to settle back where it came from. A lot of guys cultivate and say, oh, I did a beautiful job. Then the weeds start showing up and they think, well, those weeds come up after cultivate. No, they didn't. You never got them. Okay? That's why we have a second flow of soil that backs that first flow of soil up with another flow of soil, and it shores it up. If you don't do that, then that dirt's going to settle away. And you're going to have them little tiny weeds that you have to have a magnifying glass to see them. A little bitty Jimson weed is just a little tiny hair. Grass, you can't see it. Okay? And so you've got to get that backer dirt in there to hold it up there. And so I do all the rows. I'm on my hands and knees. I'm praying part of the time. And I'm going to slam that dirt in there and seal that off. And there's nothing left but soybean leaves out of the ground. And sometimes I have to do so much as just leave a little green streak of a leaf now and then of soybeans. If that's necessary to get all the weeds, that's what you got to do. If you get all of them set 100% equal, you can get to traveling 4 3/4 miles an hour and just leave one leaf out on each bean plant. And some of them are gone. You just totally cover them up. But the weeds are history, and the grass is history. You've got to push the envelope to get as much dirt thrown in there and just barely terminate your soybeans or your corn. If you don't do that, you're going to have weeds. If there's 1,000 weeds growing in a 30-inch square, 15 inches on each side of the road, let's say there's 1,000 weeds, and you get 99% of those 1,000 weeds. That means you left a weed every 3 inches in the row. You got a weed patch. 99% may pass in school, but in cultivation, 99% is failure. Okay? It takes 100% if you're going to have a clean field. Okay?